I didn't know if okay. Man, sometimes OBS, I think it's a first start thing. It takes a while. So I've got like millennial pauses times 10 with these videos, especially without editing them. But this is episode 3 of my learning to use Ableton and mix while live on Twitch series. We've done compression was part 1, and I'll continue compression as well because there's more. And I think some of what we're going to touch on today with EQ is going to affect that as well. There's going to be more crossover than, I mean, you can't just, there's a lot of crossover, and it's okay. But yeah, this one might be a little bit of a shorter one because it's pretty straightforward. I just think, if anything, I'll spend more time on a very specific EQ that I want to use, FabFilter Pro Q3. And there's some good videos that talk about very specific features with that I think I would benefit from. But I just want to have, some good foundation. I'm just trying to build that foundation up all the way around. So, the first one, oh my gosh, I've got gains pulled up. There's a snow day at work today, so I wasn't prepared to do this entirely. And just a reminder, any videos I watch, both the link will be in chat, and I'll also have every link to the creators page and to the specific video watched in the description. I don't know the exact etiquette of stuff like this necessarily, but please go support these creators as well. Like I know the ones I use for sure, and probably others I'll be trying to subscribe to and do stuff like that to help it, because they are putting a lot of work into these videos. I imagine whether they did it for the video itself and editing and whatnot, or just what they've learned. So, but I think a good one to start with is this video. And it is by the creator. Oh, it's by Waves Audio, but it's with Stella.
Honestly, I've never heard anything like this.
Okay, that's cool. And I am going to, I've been keeping track of them here, but I just want to, I hope it doesn't share that part. Oh, I just put the waves. Okay. I'm still finding the most efficient way to do this because I don't always know which order I want to watch these videos, but it's easier for me. This is their channel. This is the video. Stop it. There. Fine. Good. Number 1. So this is from it's EQ. So it's pretty basic. It's like 5 minutes.
Everyone has looked at a stereo system or a digital music player and seen the controls for bass and treble. These are very basic equalization controls, or what we usually call EQ. EQ is one of the most basic sound processors, a one that is available even in the simplest car sound systems. But when we create music, we use much more elaborate and precise EQ tools. In this episode, we're going to talk about what we do with EQ and why we use it in music. I'm Stella, and you're watching the second episode of Sound Basics.
The third episode of With Further Ado.
We use EQ to control the frequency spectrum of a piece of audio. But what is frequency? It's a function of air vibrations.
We're going
When you pull a guitar
deep.
string, for example, it vibrates and creates rapid changes in air pressure, or what we call a sound wave. The number of sound wave cycles per second is the frequency of the string, and we measure it in units of hertz. The frequency is what determines the pitch
I mean,
that we
honestly,
end up hearing.
this is the kind of deep dive I just want.
Frequency here
I
in
know
English
this
is
stuff
approximately
right here.
20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, and it differs from one person to another depending on age, ear structure,
just solidify
and
that.
how many loud parties you've been to. Just so you know, certain
Yeah,
animals
that terrifies me about
hear
working
different frequencies. Dogs, for example, can
in a
hear
factory.
up to 45
I wear my
kilohertz.
PPE religiously, but
Now back to music. Every instrument plays a certain range of frequencies that defines its sound, and along with other elements like timbre, distinguishes it from other instruments.
one, I always pronounce it timbre, unless I'm reading it fast, because then it looks like timbre, and it probably maybe it is. Maybe it is. I've just heard timbre. I had something else to say.
Now I'm going to play you
forgot
a
it.
few samples of different instruments, and we're going to look at an EQ plugin called HEQ, which has a spectrum analyzer, so you can see where the frequency range of each instrument lies. A spectrum analyzer is simply a graphical representation of the sound that we are hearing. Let's start with the kick drum, which is usually the biggest drum in the drum set, and as such, produces the lowest frequencies.
Wait, is it? Honestly, I'm not sure if I knew
Now let's hear
kick drums had it way up into, like, up here. I mean, I guess that makes sense, and it's still super quiet. And that's maybe, I think other videos we watch or stuff that you can do sometimes, we'll talk about EQing a kick drum over here, so you make room for the vocals and you make room for strings, guitar, whatever kind of harmonies and melodies you might have.
Now let's hear a snare drum, whose frequency lies more in the mid-range.
Also, this plugin, it
And
feels
here
like
are
it's
the cymbals.
reading it really
Take up
slowly.
mostly the high frequencies. For our last
So I think a lot of what EQing, like, are the videos are going to look like and stuff that I'm working on learning and seeing what not to do too much is, like, we had the kick that was going up here, we had the snare that was like up here, and then we've got the cymbals here. And sometimes there's information down here that can end up stacking on to other ones, to other instruments if they're not EQ'd, and there's differential EQs as well in various ways, and you can sidechain, and I don't know as much about that yet. We're gonna learn. You're gonna watch me learn, or we're gonna learn
For our
together.
last instrument example, let's hear a piano, which covers a wide range of frequencies. Now let's hear what happens when we change the EQ of different instruments.
So she's cutting about 5,300. She's gonna boost. We're gonna boost that mid. Now she's cutting. Cutting at the 1,000 hertz. If you're not watching with headphones or decent monitors, some of this stuff might be harder to tell. Sometimes it's hard for me to tell anyways.
So far, we've been listening to individual instruments.
So that stuff all matters, but again, what you're listening to kind of it plays a huge role in equalization as well. So, like, these are Audio-Technica ATH M50Xs. Generally, I think kind of considered to be like the low range of good, like the lower end of good starter headphones, I think. And I don't remember which part. So, like, if that's actually maybe something I could look up as well. ATH M50X. Oh, looks like I've looked this up before, and I totally remember that. So it looks like deviation, reference level, frequency response, HDMX. So the mid range, like if I'm not hearing something in the mid range, if I'm only using these, and I do tend to, just because I don't have mixing monitors, I don't currently have another set of headphones, I might want to consider that. And then if I'm, bouncing tracks or rendering tracks, I'm going to want to try them on other hardware, listening hardware, to see what it is. And then the very high end, which I don't know if that's 20K, or just dips down. It's not great. I would be curious to look at the response curve of like the best, like most neutral headphones. But
Now let's see what happens when we change the EQ of a full mix. Let's take the same example as we just did with the bass and cymbals and apply them to this song called Piano Sessions by the artist Benjamin's brother. Notice how it sounds when I raise or lower the low frequencies. This is the same effect that happens as moving the bass knob on your stereo.
so it's like considers it right around 200.
And when I raise or lower the high frequencies, this is the same effect as moving the treble knob on a stereo or car radio. That's basically how it works. So we've heard what EQ does, but why exactly do we use EQ when making or mixing music?
Because they said
Well,
to.
we don't always want the full frequency range of every instrument in our mix. And EQ can help us sculpt the sound image, boost what is desired, and cut what is not. With EQ, you can bring the best out of each instrument, make sure that different
Okay.
instruments don't.
So, I haven't done this before, at least right away. Normally I watch, the last 2 episodes I've watched a couple videos and then went in to just tinker around with the song. But, maybe with this basic stuff, I could go in and also just do an experience with it. I could maybe... Okay, since the last videos, I have taken what I've learned about compression and a few other things, and I have compression and gain staging and applied them to the songs, to the project. I don't know. I feel weird calling songs. I don't know exactly what they're going to turn out to be. So, for example, now like my drums, my percussion is a lot more punchy, but I still want to mix my guitars or my guitar a little bit better. However, and also arranging stuff helped big time. So if you hadn't seen this project before, it was a real mess, but I've got, even within this kind of groove, I've got it all arranged. I've got the EQ. So for a lot of these, I don't know if this is like the best thing to do. It's something that seems to have worked for the most part for me, is on things that aren't the bass, sub bass, or kick, rolling things off, like just cutting it off at 100, pretty much no matter what, making room for that bass. So I'm curious. I wonder, maybe I could take all my EQs off, run through them, and take them all off and show the difference. Drums, I just have a drum bus on. Well, for the whole drum bus. I got a bus on the bus. Its bus is all the way down, folks. I was experimenting a bit with the kick here. I don't remember why. Maybe I just was trying to get that punch. And then that's a saturator, which is going to do its own thing. EQ on the snares even. If I solo that's just a pow, right in the kisser. And compression is going to affect volume and stuff as well at different parts, because I've got it. I think I have it compressed. Well, I thought I had that side chained. Oops, yeah. I'm gonna have to run through this stuff again. I thought I had that side chained to like the hi-hats or something, but now I have an EQ on the hi-hats. Oh, before and after. Oh, never mind. Okay, this one I have. You can see there's automation on it. I was bringing it down to get a filtered effect, so not really relevant to what we're doing here. Yeah, if I so just pulling it down to give it that kind of dull that expansion effect. There's other stuff playing into that. Don't have a bass line yet. I EQ'd my guitars. So I'm going to play a tiny bit of it. And then I'm going to turn off all of the EQs. Now, maybe just turn this stuff off the master too, because it's doing its own thing, but... Okay, so now if I go through... I'll just leave it there. I'll just leave it there because it's there. And I don't think the individual stuff has one. This one does have one. Okay, EQ8. Why did... Oh, I remember why I put that. Okay. That... I think I can delete those reverbs. I think I have it on the send now. Yeah, I've got those sending, but... Okay, I'll EQ this, or remove the EQ on this. The rest I'm just gonna try and see if I can like show the difference between just EQ. I should be able to undo and redo to kind of get a good A/B. I don't know if there's a faster way that I can like select it all and turn them all on and off each time. I think you can only do that within a chain. Like I could turn all of these off, on and off at the same time, but I don't know about from multiple tracks. But I'm still just going to go track by track, turn the EQ off, bass. I don't think I EQ'd these specifically. I think I EQ'd them, if anything, as a whole. Yeah. That shouldn't matter for that. EQ off. Turn the EQ off there. Okay. So now playing this same, we'll just loop that. I might be able to pull this one. This one's up on the master. So this is kind of what things look like. Now, I believe if I hit... Oh, no, I'm going to have to do it for all of them. Okay, well, shit. I'm just hitting Control Z as much as I can. All right, nothing to undo. Maybe this isn't going to be as... And I've still got EQ stuff to do. You can kind of see the differences there. I wish I had an easier way to set up. I am curious if I hit like Control. Well, not on this one, but because I just wanted to use that basically as a spectrum analyzer. But I want to get to the next video, but I wonder if I hit Control. So right now it's off. Control that. Is this one still... I don't think it's selected. Yeah, okay. As far as I can tell, I don't have a good way to do that. So this might not have been the most useful thing. Well, that one's off. Okay, so if I hit Control... If I turn that on, are these ones turned back on? No. Well, maybe, okay. Let me try this. There's probably a reason why I selected these to be EQ'd in this way. So I'll play just this. That's not the great. So I can hear it. There's definitely stuff there, and a lot of it's more about like not getting all this extra stuff into the mix and affecting your bass stuff. Okay, so not the best example, not the probably without editing this, which I'm not gonna do. It's kind of hard to show that A/B that well. I could hear most of it, and I also know what a lot of these things sounded like before, but
clash and muddy up the overall sound. And finally, you can use EQ to add the right color to your music, set the right mood, what I would call the artistic side of EQ. We have a lot more to talk about. Let me know what topics interest you the most, and I'll try to cover as much as possible.
And I don't think if I have a feeling one of these videos up here, if we get to them all, might cover stuff like this. Here is actually something that I did want to maybe show kind of just right now, is that you can do a lot with EQ, and it's not just making sure the instruments fit well with each other. I mean, maybe that's kind of the overall thing, like all things lead to that. But for example, this song is in F major, and I have not, like, for example, taken a look at the kicks. So if I go to the kicks, and let me throw on Pro Q. I'm not worried about that down there. This one where there's a bunch of them, and we'll loop it. We're gonna loop it. And I totally know what I'm doing. I'm good at clicking around. Okay, so I know it's an F. One thing I can do is I can look for where F is. There's at least with this particular one, every frequency is a note. That's just how sound works. So, for example, 43.654. There's another one. Band 2 at 87.3. So if I hover over it, there we go. And I can boost this here if I want. Now if I do that, things might be getting muddied elsewhere. This might not be a good idea. I don't have a bass line, so it might not be interfering with that. So you can tell the difference, but you can get very specific with it. You can make it super sharp, so you're just playing this note. Actually, it almost sounded like, hold on, sorry. Now I'm just like, did I hear that right? You can actually hear that in there. Now it's just that pop, 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 pop. Just that kick, but now you're adding to it. Let's say we have another F right here. We'll spike that one up. So technically, I could take something like this. But this is just a kick, and so you can do this with white noise. White noise goes across all spectrums, and you can make notes and entire instruments off of this type of stuff if you want. Now, you don't always want to tune your drum this specific way. That's something I'll definitely be experimenting with at some point, though. And with Pro Q3, and there's a reason I wanted to go through like that specifically. You can, if you have these on lots of channels, it lets you compare them and see where there might be some muddiness. It gives you lots of tools with them working together. Sorry, I do crazy stuff, and then I'm like, I should probably go back to where it was, because I'm just trying to do a concept type thing. Okay, I believe that was it.
Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe to the Waves YouTube channel for more sound-based
the Waves channel is in the, if you're on Twitch, it's in the chat. Otherwise, We'll do this one. And it will also be in the description for YouTube, folks. Okay. This is Sweetwater. It's just a nice little 8-minute video. We'll see if, they supplement well.
Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater.
Hi, Rich. Okay, so that's the Sweetwater one, and then the link for this video is in chat, and it will be in the description as well. So let's watch this one from Sweetwater.
Jacob here. Today's lesson is sponsored by Science because we're going to be talking about the audio spectrum. We're going to go into terms like frequency, hertz, waveform, harmonic series, and we're going to talk about why these concepts are important to know.
I have not watched this video. Maybe I should be doing that a little bit, but I guess maybe harmonic series would cover what I was just kind of doing, where you can like pull out specific notes from any sample, really. And you could turn the others down and have really, you could do chords with.
So what is the audio spectrum? It is
this
the
is Pro Q3, by the way.
frequency range at which humans can hear, and it spans from 20 hertz all the way up to 20,000 hertz.
Thanks, I hate it.
I tried to spare you some of the super high frequencies just because they can get really hard.
I was worried that he just like stopped and I was
just
just unable to hear that.
Understanding this spectrum is so important. One is that our hearing changes as we get older. Perfect human hearing, yes, it can go from 20 to 20,000 hertz, but as we all get older, we lose a little bit, especially in that top range. The top of our hearing comes down to really be more about 6,000 or 7,000 hertz. This is also important to know as a mixer because if you're dealing with a track that you want to release commercially,
all of my songs are above
you need to know that most
15,000
systems are made
hertz.
to
This
play
is
from
awful.
20 hertz to 20,000, especially knowing that below a certain frequency, it's not so much perceivable with the ear as it is felt. You can feel low bass frequencies. With high frequencies, sometimes they might sound really annoying.
I can
really
feel them
brittle,
too, yeah.
Or you might not really be able to hear them at all, especially when you get into that 16,000 range. But you'll notice
Literal
if you
dog
boost or
whistles.
cut them completely from an entire track or even an instrument, you will hear the difference. You can hear when they're there and when they're not. The sound in that sweep we just did through the audible spectrum is a sine wave. The sine wave being the simplest waveform possible. And you can see that note I just played is A440, which if you've learned anything about the Western tonal system and the way that we tune in the Western world, A440 is the standard tuning for that system. This plugin here is a waveform visualizer that actually shows us the waveform we're looking at, but it's giving us both the frequency and the amplitude of the wave. So you can see when the note is softer, the amplitude is lower, meaning the vertical axis. But then you also have the frequency. Frequency is the rate at which a vibration occurs that constitutes a wave. And you measure frequency in hertz.
It's the
which is
exact same
number of
thing
cycles
for
per second. So
colors
if you look at
as well.
the waveform visualizer, you'll see
It's
that
the
there
same
are a
spectrum, I'm
relatively
pretty
low
sure.
number of cycles in this low A.
I'm waking up still.
But
Don't
if I
quote
go
me on
up
that.
a few octaves, look at how many more cycles there are per second. And higher still.
Okay.
And down here, we can see one full cycle of a sine wave. The simplest waveform possible is the sine wave. It cannot be produced in nature. It is not a natural sound, but we can make it with synthesizers. All other waves can be built by layering multiple sine waves together. So for instance, if you layered a bunch of sine waves together at the right frequencies, eventually the scope would not show one cycle of a sine wave anymore, but it would show what looks more like a square wave. And as you got it more
Oh, okay. So this is cool. I didn't know like how they did saw waves or square waves or other ones. And I remember dealing with that stuff when I was learning. I think was it trig or geometry? I think trig, but like high school trig. So basic stuff. But I just never really.
more and more layered, it would start to look more
It's
and
all
more
connected,
square
man.
and less
It's all
like a
math.
sine.
It's all
Isn't that
science.
cool? Many waves or sounds have what are known as harmonics, which form the harmonic series, which is a series of overtones which sound along with the fundamental pitch. It's a series of notes that is produced naturally when you sound them. It's nothing artificial. It's not anything I'm doing here to layer sounds that
A lot
you
of
don't
theory
see.
comes
It
from
occurs naturally.
that
Most of the tones in the
of
harmonic
stuff.
series are not in tune with our Western tonal system, so we have to compensate when we try to write it out on staff paper to make up for the deviations in pitch.
So yeah, we have the 12 semitone system, the A through G sharp. There's natural whole
We can
steps
observe
and
the harmonic series in other
it's-
instruments as well, like a piano. Or a guitar.
I want to see if it'll let me pull this up really quick. So guitars, if you play
Trumpet.
a fretted guitar, technically the frets are just at an approximation. So let's see if I have a perfectly fretted
Barry sax.
guitar. Okay, I don't know how the representation is still really good. If you were going to have a guitar with like perfect intonation for the notes, the frets would often look something like this. So instead of being the straight flat ones, they would look like this because, you know, maybe you have your first fret there normally. So it's going to be a little bit, it would be flat because this, you know, playing higher up makes the wave a little bit faster, which takes you to a higher note. And these are, you know, semitones. So E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, and so on. But there's little differences that, you know, depending on the size of the string, nope, that'd be timbre, I think. That wouldn't really affect pitch because it's just the length of the vibration. Length of the string, frequency of the vibration, I think.
One crucial thing
My
to
terminology
realize
might be
here
off.
is that all these instruments are playing
concept
the
I can
same
see in my head
harmonic
is right.
series above that fundamental pitch, yet they all sound completely different from one another. These unique sound qualities have everything to do with how the instrument is constructed and how the sound is produced on the instrument. Like the sound of my cat purring.
So you could do the same thing I was doing with that bass kick,
Oh, he's so
that
cute.
kick drum.
But you could see the frequency information for the sound of a cat purring, again, is completely different from a piano.
I wonder if, did he say timbre already? The character or quality of a musical sound or voice as distinct from its pitch and intensity.
Or a guitar, and it has everything to do with how the sound is being produced in the throat of the animal, which is different than, say, how a brass instrument is played with a mouthpiece through vibration. But the one thing all sounds have in common is that they are vibrations through the air, which reaches our ears, which is how we perceive that sound. Now that we've finished the nerdy science portion, you're probably wondering, why do I need to know this stuff? Whenever you're doing any kind of EQ, you need to understand that you are not only just turning up and down different parts of the frequency spectrum, but you're also changing the harmonics of that instrument. You may be completely taking them out in some cases. I'm gonna do a little demonstration right now with a drum kit. And let's isolate just the snare.
Okay, so it looks like they were doing the same stuff I was doing, again, with the kick. Just pulling that note there.
Now I'm going to refer to my handy-dandy music instrument frequency cheat sheet from Sweetwater. So if I wanted to give the snare
I should
drum a
look
little
into
bit
that.
more girth, a little bit more...
Do they have that in the description? Again, links are either in Twitch chat or will be in the video, the YouTube description. Do they have that cheat sheet here? For what it's worth, my guitars are from Sweetwater. The mic is from Sweetwater. No, yeah. The mixer is from Sweetwater. So
weight or thickness, I would boost around 100 to 200. And that makes sense
Girth.
because
Yes.
a lot of snare drums, their fundamental pitch is at about 200 hertz. And this brings back to why understanding the science behind frequency and sound is so important, because as we saw with even a simple sine wave or a triangle wave, they all have fundamental pitches and overtones that sound over the top. So for a snare drum, the fundamental pitch or the strongest pitch, the lowest note, is at 200 hertz. And we can continue to boost that as much as we want to, and you'll hear more of the tone of that fundamental frequency, that fundamental pitch.
Okay, maybe I should just let them do it. It's okay, we gotta see
We
it
can go
on
into the
my
range that
song.
they're calling bark.
Where's the bite?
And I like to use extremes. Obviously, this isn't always super practical when you're actually mixing, but if you use an extreme boost like this, you can hear what sounds very similar to when we did the sine sweep, and you can hear the pitch that you're boosting.
So one thing you could do is if you knew the pitches you wanted, what you were boosting, you could boost very certain chords, and you could literally play entire songs, progressions, doing that. I don't think that'd be necessary, but it could be cool.
So if we boost that 1K range, you can hear what we're doing there.
And you can automate it to move or get wider.
But when you have it boosted too high, you can hear that
Higher Q,
resonance, and
lower
it doesn't
Q.
really sound very natural at all. But just little light boosts in these areas can change the texture, and in this case, it's giving it a bark or a little bit more of a presence or an attack. And that's our video. I hope you enjoyed this basic
Okay.
overview.
I mean, that covered a lot of the same stuff, but they also did some other unique stuff. So again, that was Sweetwater's video. And the previous one was Waves. Again, this one's going to probably be a shorter video. So let me see what we got here. Nathan James Larson, I'm not familiar with them. I have watched a lot of this guy's EDM tips videos. This type of stuff might be more interesting to me just because it plays into things that I might do, like things to maybe stay away from or at least to keep in mind. Since I am doing this for a mixing perspective, I want the bass line, the core fundamentals of these concepts, but also I want very specifically to apply them to mixing. And he'll probably cover a lot of that same stuff. Maybe. And this one's for Fab Filter specifically, which I may watch one. Okay. There's no categories. Okay, the things I'm looking at here. I'm not going to watch
What's
this
up, everybody,
one.
and welcome to my channel. My name is Nathan Larson, and
This
if
is
you
his
are
channel.
a home studio producer, an artist, a songwriter, composer, basically, if you write and record your own music at home, this is
Well, that's him. Link is in chat. I don't know if I'll put this one in the YouTube description so we're not watching it, but Nathan James Larson. I'm going to do the EQ in 10 minutes. Just kidding. How to EQ like a pro for mixing purposes.
Today I'm going to show you the 11 EQ mistakes.
And like I said, I would do. We've got EDM tips. Honestly, I think they've been in every video. I think we did one for compression and for gain staging. I think we did gain staging with. Yep, no, it was this guy's video too. I like his content. Please go subscribe. I can type in this specific video for this one. I've got the links over there, but it's just easier for me to do it in the order that I do it. Please don't do auto stuff. Gosh. All right.
I've made hundreds of times myself over my 25-year career in producing music in the hopes that you can avoid making these mistakes and save yourself loads of time and make your music instantly sound way better. Now, it's worth noting it doesn't matter which genre of music you produce or which digital audio workstation you're.
So this is important. For example, after the compression stuff, like if I go through and I show my acoustic song, I did overcompress that in its current state, but that stuff I can back down. I can mix differently. I did basically mix it like it was an EDM track, and you don't want to do that with that type of music.
These 11 mistakes
typically,
and fixes
maybe you
are
do.
going to apply to you. My name's Will from EDM Tips. Over the last 6 years, I've been teaching thousands of bedroom
Generally,
music producers just
popularly,
like you, get their music to
I
a
don't wanna do that.
professional level and released on some of the world's biggest labels like these guys showing up on the screen now. But before we go into these 11 EQ mistakes, let's just listen to a track before I've identified these mistakes and then listen to it after these mistakes have been identified and fixed.
Again, if you don't have headphones on, this probably won't.
So it sounds pretty good, but now let's listen to it once we've identified these mistakes and fixed them.
So you can hear that bass coming through a bit more. You just have, like, this phrase will get used a lot. I'll use it a lot because it's such a fitting phrase. Things kind of fit into their place on the spectrum and they're not overpowering other parts. Ideally, like, to get it to sound good. Because honestly, if I made this type of music, this kind of more, not trancey, but the more four on the floor stuff, which I don't tend to do, and don't tend to listen to as much. I'd be okay with having made that first version, probably.
Hear the difference?
Especially,
it's quite subtle,
especially
but
now.
it's more full-bodied, powerful, and just a more professional, thick-sounding mix. Now, mistake number 11 ties all of the other mistakes together, so make sure you stick around for the whole video to understand how each point.
EDM tips. Yeah, again, there's a weird thing where I don't entirely know for sure how these folks care about content. I am hoping that the value in what I am doing can be seen in that maybe someone learns very ground up the way I do, can learn other creative, like these guys show up in like very top of my searches a lot of times, and hopefully can direct them to other people because they have other amazing videos on these topics as well.
It affects the others. Without further ado, let's hop into the door and get it done. Oh, and
That
if you
said,
enjoy this video, please subscribe to my channel for tutorials like this each and every week. And if you want more mixing tips, you can download my free mixing guide below this video to instantly improve your music. Okay, so
Sorry. That said, there's a good chance that my videos are superfluous, but I am trying very hard to apply them to my own stuff live and make that kind of part of it. Like they've got these fully produced tracks already a lot of times, and they're just doing one little thing. Maybe it can also be beneficial to just see someone see someone attempting to tweak stuff after like implementing these things in their own stuff.
we're going to go straight for the jugular for this first mistake, and this is something that I'm guilty of advising people on. It is using surgical EQ sweeps too much. Now, using surgical EQ sweeps is
Like I
really
have in
a
mine.
useful thing for identifying problems in a sound. So if we listen to this guitar sound from a track that
If
I've
that's
just
what he's
released,
referring
which you
to.
can check out below, it sounds like this. Okay, cool. So with an EQ sweep, usually what you would do is you would load on an EQ. In this instance, I'm using the FabFilter Pro Q3, great EQ. And then you would boost a bell curve like this to quite a high level and quite a narrow Q setting. And then sweep up and down, listening for any resonant tones that just pop out and sound horrible. Now, the trouble is, and what people often do, is they will do this too much. And if you boost any
I actually have
frequency
not done this
with a
before.
high Q value too high, it's going to sound horrible. Like, listen to that. It's
So yeah,
all
that
resonant and horrible.
Resonant is full.
Awful. So the usual thing to do at that point would be to cut that down by a couple of dB. And so it goes. So then you might add another one and then look for a horrible sounding frequency. But the mistake is, again, we've got a narrow bell curve. Oh, that sounds awful. We best dip that down. Now, if you imagine doing that like 8 or 10 times on every sound, what you end up with is this strange comb filter type sound.
Yeah.
So if we just do it a few more times, let's boost
Okay,
up.
so there is, I'm still learning to use it and stuff, but there is a plugin called Soothe 2, which kind of does something like this, but a lot more surgically. I don't think it's a cheap plugin. I got like barely on sale, or actually I don't even know if it was on sale. I just looked enough into it and it seemed like something I would find useful, called Soothe. So like, for just this track, my electric guitars, again, and these were recorded from my Epiphone SG into an amp sim type deal called Ableton GP200, I think, like that. Kind of very low range one. Good for what I was using it for, and this was me just messing around because I didn't have a saxophone sound that I wanted to go in this song. But so it's got some, tonal issues, like just listening to it with, even if I took off, so I've got a couple things like a saturator and stuff on the end to hear the difference with that. And let me. Those things can add a little bit of bite or stuff to various instruments and vocals sometimes, depending on where you use it and what type of saturator or effect it might be. But okay, this program right here kind of, I believe, is doing what he's referring to. It's called Soothe 2. Am I able to? So it should just be looping through that. So it's kind of doing that little thing, but you can change the sensitivity. So I had it at -3. So it's taking out a lot of those kind of resonant peaks. But you can, one of the nice things about this tool is it can help you hear, so you're listening to delta, you're listening to what changes it's making. So this is the type of stuff it's taking out of there. I don't know why it went back into that, but. So it's super subtle. So it's off. And for this, it maybe doesn't make a difference. Maybe I don't have it attacking enough. There's a lot of options there. But I honestly and you can also sidechain it. So if you want to like take out, like while your vocals are active, maybe you've got an instrument that kind of sits in the same range as your vocals. You can kind of take out some resonant peaks by sidechaining it and doing all that stuff. But that's the same effect. You get that comb effect from it. But it's here, you're not doing it for every little piece, and it's automated. And the intensity is changed. So every time it restarts, it seems to like miss the delta or the bypass. Okay, I don't know exactly what's happening there. Oh, I think it's playing both of those. Okay, so it's also showing stuff from both because I've got it on the full electric guitar bus. But yeah, Soothe 2 is an app, or is a VST that can help with that type of stuff.
Listen for a horrible frequency. Oh, well, that's horrible, isn't it? The thing is, as I've just mentioned, every frequency is going to sound horrible
this
if
one
you
isn't
boost
in
it that much.
in the
Simply
actual
because
chat.
it's too loud compared to all
Now
the
it
other
is.
frequencies. Now if we turn this off,
See?
it sounds
There.
better. And if you imagine doing this another 5 times, what you'll end up with is a thin and reedy sounding instrument, and that's what you want to avoid doing. Now, having said that, as I've mentioned, surgical EQ is very, very useful. So if you've got a vocal or a guitarist and you listen to it without any EQ on it and you can hear a problem frequency, you just think, okay, there's something that sounds a bit ringy or a bit tinny. That's when you use the surgical EQ sweep, and then you do exactly what I've just shown there, but not so high, perhaps like plus 10 or plus 15 dB, until you hear it just really boost at that resonant point, and then by all means you can duck it down by a few dB. But as I said, if you overdo this and you use it where there isn't a problem, any frequency that you boost with a narrow Q and a bell curve is going to sound horrible, and then you run the risk of ducking too many frequencies and ending up with a bad sounding instrument. So we kind of went in at the deep end there, but I wanted to cover it straight away. So let's get on to EQ mistake number 2. And that is not using high pass and low pass filters on pretty much everything. So if you think about...
Okay, so this is what, maybe that's what I thought he meant by the surgical stuff. So this is what I was talking about with basically every instrument. I've got things cut off here at, sorry, we can check it here. 67, I don't know. I don't know if I listened to it and put it there. I don't freaking remember. And then a high pass one for that to get a very specific sound. Same thing for this. It's hard to tell the difference at this volume for me. For me, okay, what if I, hold on, what if I turn that off? So all of this information here is adding, it's stacking on top with my kick drum with a bass that I might add. So I believe the first video mentioned it too. Like, you might not even hear it. I can kind of hear it, but it's also the loop. It's almost too short probably. Because I just want to like hear it in one. And then one other thing I might want to try here is if I have one on the master. So I don't have the drums going, I've just got the, actually, okay, fuck. I'll figure out my, well, so it's gonna be hard to tell, but you can see there's this curve that happens right here, right around here. It's kind of in this that slope to the left. If I go back and I put the EQ off, it goes up a little bit higher there. And maybe it doesn't even sound bad, but I also don't have my bass line in there yet, so. And we kind of heard, it doesn't seem to be adding a whole lot. Delete. It doesn't seem to be adding a whole lot by leaving it in there, so that's part of the importance of EQing as well.
About a mix, especially when it comes to dance music,
And I've got
but really all kinds
kind of
of
all over the
popular
place.
music. You've got a lot of information down in the bass frequencies and the low mid frequencies, because that's where a lot of instruments share those frequencies. So when you think of a voice or a piano and some of the drums as well, there's going to be a lot of information down in that 200 hertz, between like 100 and 400 hertz range. So we need to make sure that we're cutting out unwanted low frequencies. Now, especially with dance music, you want plenty of room for your kick and your bass. So if we listen to our kick and bass here, we've got the drums in there as well. That's fine. That's taking up pretty much all of the low end. So we need to make sure it's got the space to breathe and we're not going to end up with a muddy mix. So if you look at our piano here and listen to it on its own, it sounds a bit tinny, but that's fine because it's all about the context. And you can see here, I've just taken out everything under about 110.
Sorry, this is actually something I've been having a lot more fun with recently. I think I even initially had it in my old version of the project I'm working on right now, but automating the EQ coming up like that. Also helpful in cases of reverb. I think I've got it on this one. It would be on the... Is it on the other song, maybe? Oh no, I've got it happening here. Let me see when it happens. Okay, so right here, I dropped from like the 20K hertz. Right here, this 8th one, and it fades into... And you can kind of hear the reverb. So I believe I've got some volume. I've got like less of it going to the reverb. I believe, not pitch drop. Actually, okay, it would be these ARPs. So, actually, no, the reverb stays. It doesn't. I shut it off here for the that part, but so yeah, so when you hear the reverb kind of doing that in this area, you can kind of create that swelling or that expansion or that contraction. And I'm literally taking how much of the reverb you're hearing with that type of stuff.
10 hertz. Quite brutally, actually. So if we were to take that,
and that's going to be on
off,
side chaining and reverb eventually.
You can see there's all of this low end information.
It's all
here.
connected, man.
That's completely unneeded. All it's doing is muddying up the mix. And similarly, if we go over to the vocals, let's listen to the vocals.
Like islands in the sky, living in a paradise.
You can see here, there's all of this low frequency in this spectrum analyzer that's not being used. And if we roll off all of the high end, just so we're hearing what's going on down here,
Like islands in...
all it is muddying up our mix. So that's why on pretty much every element, I recommend a roll off of the low end, so a high pass filter.
Maybe I'm even rolling off too much. I usually do it like 100.
For is that you don't roll it off too high. So for most instruments, you can roll it off around 80 to 120 hertz, somewhere like that, without losing the body that you need, especially when it comes to vocals.
But also just listen to it.
Rolling it off too high. But when it comes to
Wiggle
things
it around a
like
little bit.
hi-hats and the really high up instruments, you can roll it off up into the thousands of hertz. It's fine. Anything that's not needed, just get rid of it. Now, the flip side of that is having a low pass filter. So there's a lot of information in the high end as well, especially when you've got hi-hats, maybe synthesizers and stuff like that. So anything that can be rolled off slightly in the high end with a sound that's not needed is also possible. So if we listen to our strings, they're quite low down strings. So I might see what I can get away with rolling off some of the high end. Now this has a much less of an impact than rolling off the low end because low end waves are much bigger, but it's still important to consider is having the low pass filters to make sure you've got enough room in the high end for the most important elements to shine through your mix. Okay, on to EQ mistake number 3. Now this one is a bit advanced and I don't recommend this for most people most of the time, but if you're creating music that has an acoustic instrument like a vocal or a guitar recorded, sometimes there might be a frequency that you don't like, but only in a part of that take. So you might like that frequency to be there for, say, most of the guitar, but then you get to a particular part of the guitar where that frequency is not wanted. Now, if you remove it with a normal EQ, then you're going to be taking away the energy that you like from the rest of the part. So if we listen to this guitar, for example, there are 2 parts to it, 1 part's lower and 1 part's higher. So let's listen from here. And then we go up higher. But you can hear here that the you can hear here that the guitarist has accidentally hit a lower note. So you can hear this lower strum as well.
Yeah, I do it all
So
the
if we
time.
were to apply an EQ to get rid of that, you can hear we're getting rid of that low frequency, which is great. But if we keep that low frequency removed for the whole guitar part, it sounds a bit thin here, especially when we go lower. So this note here sounds a bit thin, whereas if we turn the EQ off, there's a bit more body to it. And let's see if we can hear it more here.
Yeah, it just kills the energy of it.
So you can hear,
Energy,
we remove that
dead.
frequency for the whole guitar part,
Dead
we're
low.
taking out some of that low end energy. Now what you can do at that point is simply automate your EQ. Now as I said, you won't need to use this in most situations, but just because something is going to utilize EQ and make it sound better at one point in the take, it doesn't mean it's going to do that at every point in the take. So in this example, you might just automate this node to come on just for that high part of the guitar and then automate it to turn off again after that part has happened. Now mistake number 4 is something that I made for years, which is not training my ears to be able to determine these different frequencies. So if you struggle to hear some of the nuance in the last few examples that I showed you, I thoroughly
can hear
recommend
those
a
ones,
couple
but-
of websites. Either one is great. You've got soundgym.co and you've got the Quiz Tones ear training app. Now both of these involve spending 5 or 10 minutes a day playing these little games. They're actually quite fun, and they help you determine what frequencies you're actually hearing, which will help your mixing immensely. They also work on what you're hearing in terms of compression and reverb, and I recommend these tools to my accelerator students, and we swear by
That
them
sounds
at
pretty
EDM
dope.
Tips. Just a few minutes of using these apps every day or two, and you're going to be way better at determining what frequencies you're actually hearing within a couple of weeks. Now EQ mistake number 5 is something that's often taught over the internet. I've taught it myself as well, but there's more to it than that. And that is mixing just by cutting in your EQs.
I think one thing I'm gonna maybe try to do sometimes is if they're in parts like this, and this person does a great job of doing videos like this, but I'm kind of guessing. Ultimately these are to help myself learn the stuff a bit better. So if I can make a guess and either be partially correct, or just way off, that's going to solidify the learning of it. Feel free to guess along in chat if you happen to be in here during this or any other videos, or feel free to pause it and guess. Not that, but ultimately, it's kind of like a self quiz, I guess, just seeing if I have the understanding yet to know what they're even referring to, like only using subtractive EQ. So my guess is going to be talking about boosts, whether it's, I don't know if it would be, I don't think he would talk here about boosting like your kick drum's note for the key of your song, or something that's a note that's in the key. Like, so I was trying the F. There might maybe, see, I don't know scales that well. That's something else I need to learn. I feel like G sharp's in there, probably. Maybe not. Maybe an A. There's got to be an A in there.
Just by using EQ
But
cuts.
anyways.
Now hear me out. Yes, EQ cuts are super important because you need to get rid of the unwanted frequencies, as I just showed you with the guitar sample a couple of points ago. If there's a low frequency there that you don't need, or whatever the frequency is, of course you need to cut that to get rid of it. But additive EQ does have its place as well, and sometimes there's nothing that will get the job done rather than just a little bit of additive EQ to add some high-end sparkle or some body in the low end. But there is a caveat to that. I'm about to show you an EQ mistake number 6. But before we do that, let me know if you're enjoying this video so far. Leave a comment below, give me a
Hell yeah, or
amen brother if you are feeling holy, and let me know, what do you struggle with music production. I can't promise I'll be able to help, but I can promise to try. And if you're enjoying this video
Everything.
so far,
But
please
you
hit
also
that
help
like
with
button
basically
below.
everything,
Only
so.
takes a second and it really helps me out. Okay, on to EQ mistake number 6.
Again.
And that is only using digital parametric EQs. Now don't get me wrong, these tools are exceptionally useful, especially when it comes to cutting problem frequencies, as we've
all I got,
already looked
man.
at. So for example, the EQ8 in Ableton is a parametric EQ. We can see the readout helps us determine where we want to be cutting. We can choose exactly the frequencies and the Q values, all very good, but there are a couple of problems to only using this kind of EQ as opposed to the other kind of EQ that I'm going to recommend, which are analog modeled EQs. See, we can get distracted by our
But
eyes. Sometimes it's very useful to have a
can't remember
look
if it's
and
a
see what's going
Pultec.
on.
Is that
But
a
sometimes we
compressor
can
or
rely
an
too
EQ?
much on
Or
our
both?
eyes when we should really be learning to use our ears, which again is going to help determine what frequencies we know we need to be cutting and boosting. And this comes with practice. And if you're only using an EQ more like this, which is an analog model EQ, then you can see we've got limited controls. Our readout only shows the levels. It doesn't show which frequencies are being hit. So we have to train our ears to use these. But the second reason I recommend using these as well, especially for boosts, is that they have a musicality to them because they are modeled on analog equipment. So the modeling also involves the circuitry, so it can warm up a sound, add extra harmonics, smooth out that, and just sound a bit less tinny and a bit more pleasurable to the ear, especially when it comes to boosts. Now let me give you a quick example of that. If we've got our
I wonder if I'll
vocal
be able to
here,
hear this.
I'm going to do an extreme example so you can really hear the difference.
We could stay here, you and I.
Let's just give a little bit of a boost at 5 kilohertz, just to give a little bit more brightness to the vocal. Now, we could do that with the parametric EQ as well, so I could do it with the Pro Q3. Was that 5 kilohertz, and how much was it? I think it was 2 decibels, wasn't it? So let's just do a 2 decibel gain. And if we switch them out,
We could stay here, you and I. We could stay here, you and I.
it's quite hard to hear the difference when we're only
I can't tell if
doing
I'm
a 2
hearing the
decibel
AB
boost.
or...
If we start boosting this more though,
maybe
say
that's
to
what he's
9 decibels, obviously this is going to be way too much and the vocals will sound too
We
bright.
could stay here, you and I. We could stay here, you and I.
But it still doesn't sound too unpleasant. If we were to now put that 9 decibel boost with our Pro Q3, which is a lovely transparent digital parametric EQ. So let's just boost that up by 9 decibels. And now let's listen to it.
We could stay here, you and I.
It does push up to like
We could stay here, you and
a
I.
bit much.
We could stay here, you and I.
It's a very subtle difference, but it's a tinnier sound. It's just less pleasant as the frequencies are super digital and super focused in. There's no kind of rounding it off with extra harmonics. It's a very subtle difference in this example, but if you have this over many different items in your track, you can really start to hear the difference. And on the master channel as well, if you've got a
I don't know
little
if I
bass
have any
boost
other
with
EQs.
analog modeled EQ and then a little high boost with an analog modeled EQ, it'll just give you a more musical, smoother,
Or if you
more
cut with a
organic finish.
digital
And that's why I generally
and boost with
recommend
an analog.
doing EQ cuts with a parametric digital EQ, but
Beautiful
then EQ
harmonics.
boosts with an analog modeled EQ. Now the next mistake is an absolute game changer, and that is, contrary to the previous point, not using spectrum analyzers. So the spectrum analyzer I recommend to my students is Span by Voxengo.
That makes sense. Spectrum, analyzer, span. I've also seen people talk about not relying too much on this. Like you don't need one on everyone, but just it is a tool that I'm sure he's going to describe as why it's useful and how it can be used. I don't necessarily know the difference, and maybe he'll talk about that as well, between having that and just having I swear I had one on there. Oh, yeah. Like, I was pretty sure that this was also boosting or analyzing spectrum. Maybe it's the refresh rate. Maybe there's something like that. Oh, interesting. Okay. You see presets. Yeah, I haven't messed with this stuff. I have been like holding off on Pro Q3. I do, like my face is in the way of this one. I was under the impression that it took more CPU usage. I think it actually takes about half the CPU usage of an EQ8. But there is a nice thing. God, there's so much you can do with that, and that might be its own video. But with EQ8, like you can see it in the track itself. I waited until I got to the part that wasn't in there. But being able to see that, for me, is useful. Things like Soothe or this particular saturator. Okay, I am curious about one thing. I don't think I have an analyzer. What if I type in anal? Anally? Span. I don't have span that I'm aware of. A-tone Spanish. Spectral resonator, spectral blur, spectral times spectrum. Spectrum. Now there maybe I have spectral shaper. I have Spectroman. Okay, if I throw this, let me just throw it on here. Fuck it. Let's see what it does. Oh, this is incredibly tiny. But plugins. This looks like a different way to do it. Maybe this is a spectral analyzer. It's called Spectroman. So I wanted to see if it does anything. It's very slow. I wanted to see like if it actually did that when it does. I have that pitch drop in there. I guess you could see it do that. We might be able to even see it with Pro Q3. Turn off. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. You can see a bit of a wave. It's quick. If we slow it down to, what's half of 130? 65? Okay, it's gonna sound like shit. We should be able to watch it. Okay, that's exactly what I wanted to see. So this maybe counts as a spectral analyzer. I don't know. Probably hit Control Z too many times. It's okay.
It's free and it does enough of what you need to do with just the free version. But the main reason I really like it is that it's resizable. Now, whilst, yes, using your ears is ultimately important, the trouble with that relying totally on your ears is that we can lose objectivity, especially when it comes to mixing. If we listen to the same loop over and over again, and I know you know what that feels like, you can start to lose track of what it should be doing, and that can be really hard. So every good producer I know will use reference tracks, especially when it comes to the mix. So if we listen to
I do need to start doing stuff like that.
My track, this is an older project, same track but an older version of the project. You can see I've got a few reference tracks here, one of which is Tiesto's The Business. Now I want to get the frequency spread to be pretty similar because they're both modern house tracks in the same genre, so I know what I need to be aiming for, and this is what I use as a reference. Now you can see here on this track I've got one of these Voxengo spans, boom, and then on my master channel I've got a Voxengo span as well. I open them up to be the same size, and if we now look at them, we'll play my track and we'll be able to see Tiesto's track as well.
I'm pretty sure Ozone comes with some of that stuff too. But
you can see this is Tiesto's track. There's the kick, or the bass rather. There's the bass there. And here's my frequency spread. And you can see by having them the same size, side by side, I've pretty much got that matched nicely. It rolls off a little bit at the top end here. The low end energy is about the same as well. And then it's a pretty even spread across the mid frequencies. Now I've used this reference whilst making the changes on my track, especially the last tweaks, say with the EQ on the master channel like so. And yeah, so using a spectrum analyzer is ultimately important. Yes, of course you want to be firstly relying on your ears, but your ears aren't perfect, so using visual cues as well is a very important trick. Now the next EQ mistake is one of the biggest mistakes I ever see people making, and that is thinking that EQ is going to solve just having the wrong sounds in your mix, and it really doesn't. I mean, I'm going to give you a little example here of how choosing the wrong sound will make all the difference regardless of whether you add any EQ after it. So in the track we've got this kick, I'm just going to switch it out whilst we listen to it, so let's have a listen. Let's just find a different kick. Listen to the difference. That's the new kick, this is the other one. On its own. Just the kick and the bass. Let's put that new kick in.
Why not loop it, my dude?
Just doesn't work. For some tracks it will work, but not for this one. So regardless of what EQ or compression I was going to do after that kick, it's always going to sound bad and it's always going to sound weak because I chose the wrong sound in the first place. And I think I made a video of this a few weeks ago, so I'm going to link to it there if I did. Anyway, that's a really important tip, an absolute game changer. Just spend the 10 or 15 extra minutes choosing the right sounds at the beginning. Okay, EQ mistake.
So there's a lot of reasons that people hate drum racks. Understandably, I suppose. I had it in this, but I had to separate them all out. These right here. So then that way you can test. I don't know if I have a different version. Okay, I do have a different. I do have one where I'm currently using a drum rack. Honestly, I think at least before I did automation and stuff, I think I still would prefer a drum rack because I like to test sounds that way. And if I so I've got possible ED. What is that? Possible EDM rack. Anyways, so let me just loop this here. Oops. So you get to test out all the sounds. So you can loop this and I could be sitting here and I could go. I've got 4 very different kicks. Probably overusing them. I'm learning, chat. Try out a bunch of hi-hats. Maybe I wanted a more, acoustic one. Various claps. This one's yeah. I don't think I use that, but. So not only can you try multiple ones close to each other like that, and maybe just going through the list is a better way to do it. But if you're like me and you have trouble narrowing that type of stuff down, maybe use an EDM rack or a drum rack. And you can test that, and then let's say, let me just click into one of these loops. So I've got I use all 3. I'm gonna have to change that about this song. Because I'm learning. So I'm using 3 of them, which means I'm not using. But so one thing you can do is you can also click on this swap and you can swap it for a different one. So there's that little button there. It might be tough to see. I don't have a really good way to blow this up. But also, let's say you have you like where your kicks are, but I wish I had this one, or you can throw another one on there really quick. And I wish I had this one instead. They switched around. So you can do things like that. And then once you have kind of what you pretty close to the beat you want at that point, when it comes to things, then you do it from here. I don't know. But in this mode, at least in Ableton, which is what I'll always be using. So I've got my percussion up here, and even, my EDM rack. I've got all my things here. The ones I know I'm going to use, let's say I want my kicks separated out. I want these 2 kicks right here. So I want this one. So I hold Control, click that one, or add Shift to the whole line, just like a normal shortcuts in most applications. Right click and then extract chains. And then what that does is it adds them all over there. It usually throws them at the bottom. Did it do that here? Okay. So that is even something I would do differently, is I would go back into that maybe and actually not do it that way. And I would do them one by one. which is maybe the downside of doing that. But it'll let you take, so you have your pattern here. Hey, I like this kick 4. I like where it sits in the, I like its pattern. Extract it. I'll do one more. I still want 2 kicks. Extract it. And then now it's still sitting in here as a drum rack. I don't know if there's a good way to do that. I don't know if there's a way to just take it off. And if you can remove, can you ungroup? Okay, yeah. So you can ungroup it like that. So now it's just the kick, and I do the same thing with the other one I pulled out. Just Control-Shift-G, whatever. And then you can have these Control-G. Now you've got your kicks. And that's what I did with my other one. So that's one way to do what he's talking about. I went way too far with that, but
Number 9, 15 extra minutes choosing the right sounds at the beginning.
it's a way you can
EQ
go about
mistake
choosing
number
sounds.
9, and that is not gain matching your EQ after you've made boosts or cuts. And that basically means you're either increasing the
probably do
volume
need to do
or
more of this.
decreasing the volume when you're making your boost or your cut. And that's going to confuse your ears as to what the EQ is actually doing, because generally speaking, if it sounds louder, your ears are going to think, oh, that sounds better. And if it sounds quieter, you might think, oh, that sounds worse, when really it's not a fair match. You're not comparing apples to apples. So this is how you do that. If we've got our vocals here and we just have a listen, I'm going to add a bit of an EQ boost as shown before with this analog modeled EQ from Waves.
Like islands in the sky.
So let's open it up.
Living in a paradise.
Let's put this back to default.
We could stay here, you and I.
Okay, now let's add the boost. So we'll turn that EQ on. We'll add our boost.
Like islands in the sky.
So I've added 2 decibels at 5 kilohertz.
Paradise. Bottles never running dry.
So that's actually slightly louder. The whole signal is slightly louder because I've boosted these frequencies. Now, the way to get around this is to just take the output down of your plugin, of your EQ, and if it doesn't have an output on the EQ, you can just use a trim plugin. In Ableton, it's called the
buy
utility.
the
but
decibels
it's
that you
called the
boosted
gain
it up, maybe?
plugin if you are using Logic.
I have started, and actually through kind of the gain,
I think it's-
that was not a good one to pause. Through like the gain staging lessons, one from EDM Tips here, and then from another couple of videos, I have started throwing a utility on each one, and it makes it a lot easier to, you still get some options, but when you automate that type of stuff, it's not fucking with the entire track.
It's the gain plugin. So you just need to kind of gain match it. And the way to do that is go to your mixer channel and see what levels it's hitting before you do any EQing. So let's just reset that
Like
meter.
islands in the sky. Living in a paradise. Bottles never running
Okay.
dry.
666.
It's peaking about minus 6.6. So if we turn this on, let's see what it's peaking at now.
Like islands in the sky.
Minus 4.7. So I need to now take this down so it's peaking at about minus 6.7 again.
Like islands in the sky.
I see what he's talking about, though. No.
Paradise. Like islands in the sky.
Okay, that's about right. So now if we just group these together, let's take them out and group them together. Now we've got a fair test. So when we're A/B checking to see if the EQ has actually improved our sound or made it worse, now we're going to be listening to the same gain going in and the same gain going out.
Like islands in the sky.
Let's turn on the EQ.
Living in a paradise. Bottles never running dry.
I think
So
it
now
sounds...
I'm only listening to the difference that the EQ boost is making without having the whole volume increased. Very important tip. Okay, EQ mistake number 10, and that is not EQing in context. And that means
This is also kind of the same thing. I don't remember if it was this creator, but there was another one doing the same thing with compression and doing it in context. You're like, hey, we made this sound we made this quiet stuff sound louder. We made this loud stuff not peak while the rest of the track is in a good spot type stuff. Probably the same type of thing here is that you might EQ something and it sounds good, and then you throw it in with the rest of the mix. And it misses the entire point of doing the EQ, really. Well, one of the main points, at least. I guess part of it could be cleaning up a track in the first place. Depending, ideally, you want as good of a signal, as good of a recording, as good of an input as you can, no matter what, right away. That's not always possible. So you're cleaning up a track specifically sometimes, but then if you're not EQing it based on where it's sitting in the track, that's the point.
Listening to your element in the mix with everything else playing. Now I'm going to give you some tips on how to avoid making that mistake now as well. So if we listen to our piano on its own, you know, it kind of sounds a bit weak.
I'm going to start
And
my
that's
coffee
because I
maker.
mixed it in context, whereas in the mix with everything else, it sits perfectly in the mix.
I tripped.
And that's because it's useless making a sound amazing on its own if it's going to clash with everything else and not sound great. Now, as I said, I'll give you a tip on how to avoid that issue. So first, let's listen to what the piano would sound like if I just mixed it not in context. This is what it would probably sound like. I'd get rid of this bouncing effect. I'd probably have more low end. Probably a bit of a boost in the low end, actually.
Yeah, like so this individual kind of section or track.
Like that sounds more powerful, right? So that's what
like
it
that
would sound
better.
like if I was just mixing it on its own, not in context. So what I recommend doing is firstly, do mix it on its own so it's sounding good with nothing else playing. That's what I would have done with this first. But then when you bring it into everything else, you're going to have to do some of that mixing again. And it's usually going to involve taking out frequencies because you've already got it sounding really good. Now, the way that you can do that.
Okay, my guess is he's either going, you can tweak the same EQ that you already have within it and just add other points and maybe be more fine-tuned with that, but you can probably just throw another EQ on the end on the track. That's my guess.
Is using my top-down mixing approach. So if you mix the most important elements first, that is the kick, the bass, the main clap or snare, and the main vocal or lead synth, everything
This is
else
for
just
house
has to come
type
up
stuff.
underneath that and sound good. And you can cut out everything that's not adding to your mix or everything that's clashing with those core elements. So if you can get those 4 or 5 core elements sounding great together, everything else you can be really quite ruthless with when it comes to chopping out the EQ, chopping out the frequencies. So mixing in context is really important, EQing in context. Which takes me on to EQ mistake number 11. And this is super, super important, and it is having an intention. By that, I mean, when you put an EQ onto a sound and start making tweaks, make sure you already know what you want to be doing. Trust your ears. Like when you listen to a sound and you think, okay, it needs boosting in the high end, or it needs cutting out this frequency, or I should take the low end rumble out. Make sure you've got that in your head before you actually load on the EQ. Otherwise, you're just kind of putting an EQ on for the sake of it and shooting in the dark. So having an intention, and this really applies to everything you do in music production, apart from when you're experimenting with sound design and stuff like that, just knowing what you want to achieve before you set out and get the tools to achieve it. If you think about when you're hanging a picture on the wall, you already know that you need a hole in the wall. You know what drill bit you need, you know what size screw needs to go in the hole, etc., etc. You wouldn't just get out a drill and start randomly drilling holes in the wall. You have an intention beforehand, and it's
You don't know
exactly
me.
the same when it comes to EQing. So make sure you have an intention. Anyway, if you do want more mixing tips, if you want some of my most powerful mixing tips, do download my...
Okay, especially for EDM, but in general, I've gotten lots of great ideas from this channel. Again, EDM tips. If anyone live in chat happens to want the link, I can send it. Again, if you came in later than from when I sent it, otherwise, yes, please go to at least the channel. Honestly, like even if you didn't find anything particularly useful, chances are you'll find like this person has all kinds of videos, and a lot of the people that I am watching and learning from do as well. So please go give them a subscribe. They've got lots of good stuff like that. So these other 2 videos I have are pretty specifically about Pro Q3. This looks like Ableton 10 from 3 years ago, but I think ultimately it'll be the same. So this will be very specifically about Pro Q3, but I think I'm going to watch it. It's 11.5 minutes. So I don't know if the puppet's name is Reed. I've only seen a couple of this person's videos. This puppet's name is Reed, but also, actually, hold on. Get that for the video. Yeah, I've got that pulled up there. So there's an entertaining aspect to that, and I think I could see it helping retention in some ways as well. So go follow for that content.
The following tutorial is brought to you by WholeLoops.com.
And I got partly confused with there's a channel also called You Suck at Mixing that I enjoy as well. But
it's production time. I'm Reed Stefan, realest puppet in the game. Today, I'm bringing you my top 10 most useful features in FabFilter Pro Q3. The vocal that we're going to be EQing is a track titled My Time by Easy
I'm going to
McCoy.
sit down
We're
as
just
well.
going to drop our first Pro Q3 on here, and I always love getting started by using these convenient double-clicking shortcuts to create a high cut here on the sides and scrolling to dial in my preferred slope of 30 decibels per octave. If you want to drag this side to side without accidentally increasing or decreasing it, you can hold Command. And if you want to increase or decrease it without sliding it
all
side
these
to side,
Apple
you can
users,
hold
goddamn.
Option. Extremely useful for moving these points around without changing the resonance of it.
That said, I missed that, and I think that's actually useful. Now, I usually keep an eye on where it is, and if I'm using the note.
You want to drag this side to side without accidentally increasing or decreasing it, you can hold Command. And if you want to increase or decrease it
Control
without sliding it side to side, you can hold Option.
It's controller option. Okay, so let me see what that is for Windows users. I'm honestly just going to throw... Maybe I already have one on the master. What track am I on? Oh, I'm on this track. Oopsie daisies. Oops. So let's say... Oh, I can hear that. I can hear some bass going on. I don't think I dislike it. Okay, so I made a point. Now, scrolling on it, scroll up, makes your Q higher. You can just straight ass cut off on that. I think a lot of people go for like 60 or 72 maybe for the high cut. No, I am peeking down there. I haven't done any other stuff on this song. And it looks like this itself. Yeah, it's peaking quite a bit. Okay, so control. So control is what stays horizontally, left to right. And I believe, would that be Alt then? Yep. Oh. Alt makes it pretty easy, but it looks like Alt almost does both too. Like whichever axis you choose. So if I stop, up and down, still holding Alt this whole time, let go, but only holding Alt, left and right, still holding Alt. So it snaps a bit more with Alt. I don't know if Shift does anything. Shift is just a lot slower. Okay, and that's what Shift does in Ableton, by the way, for most things. If you want to turn a dial down, you're going up and down a bunch. And I'm not moving my mouse that much, pretty high DPI, but you can see it going. I'll make the exact same movements, and I'll tell you when I hit Shift. So you have a lot more fine control with Shift, and it seems like that is the case inside ProQ as well. So again, Control for left, right, and Alt for up, down, but more of a snap because you can go left, right.
Extremely useful for moving these points around without changing the resonance of it. And also, I'm a huge fan of soloing the specific band and using the scroll wheel to make it wider or narrower. The next thing that I find very helpful as a suggestion of to where roll off your vocal is this little piano roll that you can put down here, and then you can grab your roll off point and drop it in the key of your song. So this song is in D, so that's going to give me a 73 point something roll off for the lows, and let's try and drop this on this one right here, 18.7 kilohertz.
Now I can get it jumping when it's crunch time. Yeah, I'm all about it on the front line. I put that work in, yeah, I done time.
Now, this is a recording of rapping, so there's nothing really tonal about the vocal performance, so adding these resonance points in places that match the key of the song are going to really help blend the vocal into the music better. So we're going to be using these spots.
That's good to know. I would have thought maybe doing a little bit behind it, because if the roll off, well, I see, because in my head at least, obviously he's in the key of D. Also, it says right there, there's technically a cut right there, at least, unless it's not like a direct thing, or maybe that just means that that's kind of where the edge of it is, and that's
on the chromatic suggestions as our low cut and high cut spot. Now, since FabFilter Pro Q3 is extremely low latency, it's no problem to divide different tasks between different instances. I like to do my filtering with one instance and then all my more specific EQing. Now, the first thing that you could do is create a dot and hold
now
it.
I can get it jumping when it's crunch time. Yeah, I'm all about it on the front line.
And you can scroll your wheel to make it narrower.
I'm 24/7, never sometime.
But if you have a problem finding a specific problem area, there is suggestions that you can get just by holding your mouse down here in the lower area of the analyzer.
I put that work in, yeah, I done time. I'm 24/7, never sometime. I'm looking like the light,
so
like the sunshine.
showing peaks,
I got my city
and
which might mean the resonance peaks, and that would be maybe where something like Soothe comes in, possibly. But I think he's going to say something else here. And again, this is specifically Pro Q3. Now, I don't know how it works, if it works with others, like their limiter, reverb, stuff like that, but
very conveniently creates a sharp dip for you.
sunshine. I got my city
And it very conveniently creates a sharp dip for you.
and I ball all year, not just summertime. If you see her riding with me, bet she's summer fine. Yes, you one of mine. Now I can get it jumping when it's crunch time. Yeah, I'm all about it on the front line. I put that work in, yeah, I done time.
Now, the next feature inside of Pro Q3 that I really love is this auto gain, because as you add or decrease, things will start to sound louder or quieter because you're taking things away from the sound. So having this auto gain on as you go will just help you.
is that what the A does? I didn't see, I wasn't paying attention. Wasn't paying attention, chat. Whoa, what did I do here? Oh, God. Let me just delete this, please. There's probably a better way to do that. I could probably just hit delete on that. Oh, I did change those drums around, didn't I? There's a nice thump to them, but oh, I would have to go way the fuck back. You know what? Since this is a project that is even, like, it's not gain stage or anything, this might even, I want to do my gain staging first normally, but maybe it's a good one to just do these types of experiments with anyways. It's not going to end up like this, so you can play around with that. Hell, even there, I still have that. So, okay, so we got this on the master. Let me find something to loop. Area with drums, it's all the same. Loop it. What is this? Wait, where was I? Oh, I guess I used ProQ on this. What was I doing? Okay, so for this chunky bass, I did do a little roll off, and I think what I would do then is I want to add a sub bass. So maybe I'd even do a cutoff at like 100 and then still have my sub bass. But if I cut off at 100, so I'm gonna hold Control. Now if I hit Control Z, so okay, and then I would still have a sub bass, so it would kind of make up for that, but maybe give me some more layer to it. Because as it is right now, I like this, but when I start adding that stuff, I'm gonna want that possibly. It says something about auto something. MIDI learn? What the fuck is this? If you hover over things in ProQ3, it does show you tooltips. I think you can actually turn that off as well. With MIDI learn, you can associate MIDI controller numbers with any parameter. Oh. Okay, cool. So again, there's so much you can do with the free tools that come with like Ableton or Pro Tools or Fruity Loops, FL Studio. Oh my gosh. Please let me grab it. I just want to, just give me a piece of, oh my God. Here we go. Rolling big. Okay, so the auto gain, I don't see like the A. Maybe I thought that was the A. It's the scissors here. So I'm gonna go back and
because you're taking things or decrease, things will start to love is.
Okay, he doesn't have it on.
The next feature inside of ProQ3 that I really love is this auto gain.
Okay, so it looks like it's well. If auto gain is enabled, ProQ automatically compensates for increase or loss of gain after EQing. It's an educated best, so it's AI basically, or so what the previous video EDM tips was talking about was, you want to test if your EQ is actually doing something. I think that still applies. I think you still want to see, is your thing just louder overall, or do you or is it just more full, but EQ'd in the right spot? And you do that by having your output change to match it the same way. I don't know if the auto would kind of take care of that, so turning it on and off. This isn't going to make a huge difference. Well, actually, this could. What is going on? Happening? Who's controlling this? Couldn't be me. So if I do this without auto gain. Now, if you were automating something, the reason you'd want to do something like this maybe, because then you could automate it to. And actually, now that I think about it, I think I've got that going on. Yeah, you can actually see it right here. I've got it automated the band 1 frequency for this particular bass. So I brought it the other way, using it to kind of fade into that. So what the fuck is head bass? What am I doing, chat? What have I done? Oh, do I just have that? All right, well, chat, I don't know if you knew this, but I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Anyways, so that's something you might do. But this, the way we had it, in this chonk bass, as they say, where I come from. And I take them, holding control, moving this over. Obviously, it's a lot quieter. We had it going... I'll have it off screen for a sec. So my chunk bass right here. -5, minus... Now, before I did that... It's just better EQ'd, I guess, at that point. Like, it's still the same volume, so that's why something like that would be, like, if you're looking for fullness. So auto gain probably shouldn't add anything then. That's definitely louder. And, oh, okay, the nice thing about Pro Q3 is it does show you that difference. If I take my mouse off, you can see all we're missing. You can see the new things, and that includes the entire thing. Like, it's adding that gain to all of that right there to make it louder. So it's sensing some difference. And maybe it's more in the averages, because I was just looking at the peak, but maybe it was more in the averages that I was missing, perhaps. Perhaps. I thought I was looking at the master. I'm actually kind of confused. Did I not have one on the master? Linear phase. Oh, okay. So I do have a lot. So this project is one of the first ones where I did put, I guess, a lot of Pro Q3s just cause, instead of the EQ8s. And now I don't know if that's because that's the only one playing. So looks like this kind of shows me possible problem. Oh, I'm in the master right now, so this isn't the best place to be, but you can see where there might be some resonance issues. It kind of highlights those to at least take a look at them. And maybe they'll talk about it in this video, because I'm getting ahead of myself.
Because as you add or decrease, things will start to sound louder or quieter because you're taking things away from the
We're still on
sound.
auto gain.
Having
Holy
this auto
shit.
gain on as you go will just help you get a really fair A/B comparison as you turn the plugin on and off.
Now I can get it jumping when it's
Okay, so the auto gain does help.
Yeah, I'm all about it on the front line. I put that work in, yeah, I done time.
The next thing that I absolutely love doing is right-clicking on these and saying Make Dynamic. And you also get a little dynamic range based off of how much it hears coming in.
Now I can get it jumping when it's crunch time. Yeah, I'm all about it on the front line. I put that work in, yeah, I done time. I'm 24/7, never sometime. I'm looking like the light, like the sunshine. I got my city looking good like the summertime. And I ball all year, not just summertime. If you see
I can turn that in the way.
me, bet you summer fine. Yes, you one of mine.
I'm just going to hold Option and slide this back up to 0. And if that's not enough control for you, you can even hit this little auto button and it turns into an advanced menu, which lets you set a compression threshold, which is how sensitive the dynamics are to that specific range.
Now I can get it jumping when it's crunch time.
So my guess is it's going to go into how it can act like, it can almost act like a compressor, like a multi-band compressor, which I still need to learn more about, but maybe this video will actually help in learning about EQing will actually kind of help that. Because instead of compressing the whole track based on external things, maybe it'll just do it with certain ones.
Yeah, I'm all about it on the
Certain
front line.
frequencies.
I put that work in. Yeah, I done
Trying to be
time.
specific when
I'm
it
24/7, never sometime. I'm looking like the light, like the sunshine. I got my city looking good like the summertime. And I ball all year, not just summertime. If you see her riding with me,
Be trash, no results. Introduce your drums group into a clean, organic, and hard-hitting sauce. Whole Loops.
my guess is that's like a drum bus or something type of deal. I pointed this out in stream yesterday, but I wasn't doing one of these lessons. And now there's quite a few things you can do for this type of stuff. I have on my drums, I've got specific things, an EQ compressor, and I'll actually probably go through these and fix a lot of the stuff too. That's kind of the point of it all, and the point of doing these videos. But I have those on the kicks, snares, hi-hats, but then on the drum bus itself, I've got this. So I'll turn it off. I was kind of in the way, but you didn't really miss much. I'll turn it off, and this is what it sounds like. The drums. And simply, by turning that drum bus on, and I've tweaked things to where I really love where the fucking claps, just they snap, man. They snap. Now I could maybe add more drive. That distorts it a bit more than I want for this song, but there's also some compression built in. Now there's transient stuff you can do. You can just hear more of that higher end stuff. Actually, this might be a good way to use the EQ for looking at things. Okay. So hopefully okay, it stays up nice. So if I'm playing it, so the transients tend, I believe, to be mid-range to higher range. This is where it is. If I turn this stuff up, we should see. It's hard to tell the difference there, I think. Because it's not, I don't think it's just doing EQing things. It's doing effects, and I don't know exactly what the drum bus has. It's built into Ableton. It's fantastic for doing that type of stuff, but it's got boost. It's got EQs. Oh, fuck. Okay, maybe that's a good way to look at it. If I do more boom, should take this stuff. Oh yeah, there. Look at that. You can see that. So we're getting up to. Way up here. I don't have the best way to do an A/B on that visually and like keep track of where the point is, but that I'm aware of.
Drum sauce is
but I'm guessing that's what
now for Waves,
this drum sauce
Studio
is.
Rack, and Ableton stock plugins only at wholeloops.com.
Or maybe it's one of those setting things, like when I play guitar and I plug it into Ableton, by myself, it doesn't do my guitar. Just going direct input into my mixer isn't perfect. So I'll like on an audio track. I paid like $10 to a creator, Cloud Chord, I believe is their name. I kept it in there but if I throw it on an audio track, it has a bunch of these guitar effect presets. So there's like So it has all these effects that are just chained together. It goes through an amp and stuff. Actually, that doesn't sound too bad. That, like, just right off the bat, just for throwing on guitar effects, or effects that I use for guitar. but then you can save presets within that. So I could build this myself if I took the time to, and I can add my own presets based off of this format as well. I could, if I find one like, hey, anyways, my guess is he's got something like that, like a patch. Wait, why did it take the whole thing off? I just got to remember not to save this. I'm gonna panic. Chat, I'm gonna panic, okay? Is that okay? Anyways, I'll keep watching.
The next feature I find myself using a lot is this 100% scale, where you can keep the ratios of your work, but just dial everything back anywhere between 0 and 100 or 0 and 200% if you want to do twice as much.
Now I can get it jumping when it's crunch time. Yeah, I'm all about it on the front line. I put that work in, yeah, I done time. I'm 24/7, never sometime. I'm looking like the light, like the sunshine. I got my city looking good like the summertime. And I ball all year, not just summertime. If you see her riding with me, bet she's summer fine. Yes, you one of mine.
Now this next feature comes in clutch when you're blending two sounds together. For example, this intro is an 808 and this electric guitar.
So I
that
believe
came out on
this
a
might be
Roland Phantom
referring
keyboard.
then to what I was talking about with being able to see the red and where you might have resonance issues.
So let's drop a FabFilter Pro Q3 on this electric guitar, and I'm going to click on this analyzer menu and give this instance a name, because you can see all the instances in this track in it. You'd be able to, and if you name them all, you'd be able to tell easier looking at this list which one's which. So I'm going to call this.
Although even mine, oh fuck, I was on the other project. Mine, I think, were named per this track. Like, now maybe he named his tracks or groups after.
One.
So they should just say Pro Q3, Pro Q, but mine were named
Should be
based on
able
the
to
track they
see
were on.
Our analyzer mixed in with the analyzer from our guitar.
Now I can get it jumping when it's crunch time. Yeah, I'm all about it on the front line. I put that work in, yeah, I done time.
So it seems like right around here the guitar is really strong. So that might be a spot for me to go up and pull out of this guitar instance.
So yeah, this is one way
get it
too.
Jumping when it's crunch time. Yeah, I'm all about it on the front line. I put that work in, yeah, I done time.
And with
I'm 24/7, never sometime.
That actually makes it sound so much less muddy just from that little cut there. I mean, it's almost a 2.7. Where does it say the cut?
Let's listen to that with the rest of the mix going.
Yeah.
So the color's there, it's active.
Now I can get it jumping when it's crunch time. Yeah, I'm all about it on the front line. I put that work in, yeah, I done time. I'm 24/7, never sometime.
We can even take it a step further and have this be a mid EQ in the mid side field. This doesn't have to always be a stereo placement. We could change this to be mids only, and we could scoop out the mids and then
this
have
is getting a
another
bit
one going up, and then right click on
not
this
complicated,
and say
but this
stereo
stuff's still
placement
really cool.
Side.
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
Now I can get it jumping when it's crunch time.
So like for example, when I have that automated fade come down on that one part of the song, when I have the EQ like slide down on the hi-hats, I'm curious. Okay, I'm curious about this. This might be something useful for if you're trying to do something similar. So I've got an EQ8 on there, and the only thing I'm using this particular EQ8 for these hi-hats is for dragging this down. If I go to my automations and I go to my EQ8 that has the automation on it, and is my fourth frequency, it goes from 20 hertz or 22 kilohertz for whatever reason, down to 4.71. I'm curious if I can still be on this automation screen, take this, copy it, throw on a Pro Q3. And delete. Okay, so delete key doesn't seem to work there. Can I make... Now, if I want it... Okay. Actually, maybe this doesn't matter. So anything is, I pulled this up and I created this point, especially while I was in automation mode. So we see that band 2 frequency, and it's up there. I'm curious... let me just make sure. Okay, so I started it right here. So 81, bar 81 is what I'm looking at to just make sure I've got it. Now, if I go to my Pro Q3 and I'm using the band 2 frequency. Okay, so it doesn't do a direct comparison, but you still get that cut. And so if I wanted to, I know that I had this EQ set so it's doing more of like almost a visual thing. It's like wherever this is for this plugin, it'll do it the same visually there, but it'll still be the same amount, I think. So if I have this at 22 kilohertz and I go to now our Pro Q3. Now, a lot of times, since this is all selected still, if I'm going to like right click one of these points and change it, it should change them all respectively. So if I can get this top one right here, or even just one of these top ones that I know is going to be not 30,000 hertz, but 22, edit the value to 22,000. Now, it unfortunately brought that one down as well, but that won't matter once so let's say 44 to 9.4. Is that like that low point there? 471. Okay, so 4.71. So let's listen to... Okay, I've got that at 22. Sorry, I just want to make sure that... So that brought both of those down. So I just want to get rid of those points just so they're not affecting the rest of the track for this little random A/B test I'm doing. Just so random. So without Pro Q3, our Pro Q3 is off. If I'm listening to these hi-hats, and we'll solo them out, we see that. And it's getting sent to reverb and I believe some other stuff as well. Now, if I turn off the EQ8 and do the Pro Q3 with some pretty basic, very little extra copy paste of the automation, I'm curious. So we're already losing a lot of the information anyways, so going much past that doesn't matter. It kind of depends on how you want it to sound. Maybe you have it even go slower so it lasts just a little bit longer, because past that, that's basically bringing it down to 0 for what we have it at, because we've already EQ'd it down here to not go past, that's 1,000. But so they do sound a bit different. Now, one last thing I can do to see how different they might sound. EQ8. We know. Please stop changing it. So 22, and it fades down to 4.71 at that location. 4.71, 4.71. It's still pretty dang close, but 47100. I think I fucked that one up. Oh, it's just 4710. maybe we can do the 0.4. And then we would see if that one matches or whatever. So we do an A/B test on that. Why do you keep going to the device on? Oh, because I'm turning it on and off. So that is the easiest way to do automations of things. Is you have your automation screen up, just click on literally any part of your plugins, and that's how you automate that specific thing. So we'll turn the EQ8 off and turn this on. To me, they're pretty similar. I feel like there's some kind of difference there. But
Yeah, I'm all about it on the front line. I put that work in, yeah, I done time. I'm 24/7, never sometime.
How about that sauce? So
That's saucy,
mid-side
man.
EQing, not something that's new to.
oh, the whole reason I went to that is like I could keep the EQ on the sides. So if I hit Control Y to bring this stuff back, maybe? Did I fuck a shit up already by chance? Nothing to redo. Oh, undo, delete device. Whew. Okay. Now this is getting highly experimental. Click on this. Instead of stereo, I believe that's what he's saying here, is taking it out of the sides. So left and the right. But if I only did it for left and right, how does that affect it when I have that off and this on? Should be able to. What if it's louder? What if I took it out of the mid instead? I mean, there is a bit of a stereo difference in there, and I'm sure with other stuff you could EQ it in some cool ways. Oh shit! Okay, I gotta try something. We're gonna keep it on this nice kind of soft chord here of this electric guitar. Well, okay. I need to take some of the saturator off of that part, but I'm gonna let that play. I'm gonna throw a Pro Q3 on here. And, well, I'm not gonna let it play. I don't know if I want to do one of these. Okay, I want Q3 to just be at 1, just for this sake. And I bring it down to what, 3,800? Let's say, yeah, we'll say 3,800. Now this should be in the automation at Pro Q band 1. And yeah, so let's try that. Oh, but I don't want the Q. So I'll have to go back in, click on just the point itself maybe, and do that. That should give us probably didn't even have to do that, but okay, it gives us frequency. If we take it, interesting. Sorry, I'm learning as we go, as you all know. It should actually affect where we are. So if I want it to end up at, say, yeah, it's going as we go. Nice. Let's say I want it to end up at 69.59. I can go ahead and have that end up there. I don't know where I want it to. Let's just say there. But then have it, this particular band, start at 10 hertz, I believe. So yeah, it's starting up here, and then it's over that time, it's going up to there. And wait, no. Normally, so you'd want to be careful. Maybe you would start where you start and then alter it from there. Just keeping that as low as it can. So there's that. It just kind of eats away at it. Maybe we can move this so it lasts longer. And that should keep looping. But if we go into stereo and do sides, now it's in the center though, so I'm curious if we do it just from the mid. And maybe I'm kind of missing the point of this. Okay, so it is... There's some kind of weird little peak there. Just right at the D. Just crank that down. Anyways, okay, so we just used some other things that we learned about EQ. I actually thought it was going to be like an hour and a half video, but now I'm experimenting. Which is kind of the point, I guess. That's kind of the point of, like, this.
Pro Q3, but definitely something that makes Pro Q3 even more exciting considering these mid-side bands.
Throwing it on a bus that has a lot of width, you could probably notice that a lot more. I could kind of tell, and it shows you where it's doing as well.
Also be dynamic. And my 10th and final favorite feature inside of Pro Q3 is the ability to sidechain right here within this sidechain input. So I'm going to tell the 808 to get its sidechain from the kick, and we're going to figure out where.
So we didn't talk much about sidechain compression. I think that's still going to be its own thing. However, in a song that I have, I'm going to just I'm going to open it up because I think this will be the last kind of part that we talk about before I end this video. Finally, is the Don't Settle one. Now this is over compressed, and maybe it's something I need to turn off the limiter, and I need to probably turn a lot of stuff down. It's mixed very EDM like, because I mixed it kind of the same way I did that other one. But so I've got too many compressors on. You're going to see once I show all these things they have. I've got the compressor here, sidechain to the vocals. So I do have the cello being brought down a bit with my vocals. But more importantly, like the guitar bit right here. So it's EQ'd. I'd probably want to change some of that anyways. That actually already sounds better. I don't know why I had that up there. I need to come through and EQ this stuff. Technically, I haven't had this lesson until tonight, so be easy on me. I've got multiple. I've got it probably overcompressed. Actually, it's just taking some of that and it's bringing up some of the quieter stuff. And I already do have... I thought it would have been there. Maybe it's on the whole guitars bit here. Oh, never mind. I'm thinking of the chorus. That's why I'm confused. So guitar chorus. And it must be on the tracks themselves? Maybe that... Sorry, now I'm a little bit confused. I'm pretty sure... There should be... Sorry. Okay, so I grouped these guitars together recently, and I don't know if I needed to do that part, but utility. Okay, this is what I was looking for, and it was the gain. I did. So I do have little gain automations here. One to kind of smooth that. Does the same thing as a fade. And there were some here, I swear. I still swear there were others because I had issues with like the clicks of doing acoustic guitar stuff. I'm 99% sure it was this song, but utility gain. Maybe I missed something. Maybe those clicks are still in there. There's like screech type things that I still automated. Okay, I guess I've gone past the point of compression, and what I think will lead into maybe better things I could do for EQ is so here, I guess hopefully can take some of those screechy things, like while I have a vocal going. Let me just leave that. Take some of those little peaks there, brings them down, brings the quieter stuff up. But I also had a sidechain to the vocals. Did I sidechain it from the string? I'm a mess, man. But what is happening is while vocals are going, which they're not because they're muted, and I guess to show this, I'm going to have to play them, which is unfortunate. But I use it to bring down the guitar when I'm singing. So I guess I'll do it. So these are my vocals. It's sidechained to the vocal group. So every time it goes over a certain volume, I have it compressing it at a 5-to-1 ratio right now. I'm trying to think of a way I could show it that would still affect the compressor. But you can hear the guitars very far left and right are equal. Compared to, actually, and maybe this would be the better way to do it. So nothing's really happening from the vocals. There's some dead air that I should probably cut out. That I just have as part of the recording. And I'm getting to where this relates to EQ. So you can hear that doing that. And the things you got to be careful with and things I'm still learning is how much compression to do. Again, I don't know why the fuck I have compression from the strings. The soothe makes a bit more difference and maybe is kind of doing the same thing this EQ thing I'm trying to talk about and we're learning about is doing. Because you can hear just the side chain. But some of those peaks, those resonant peaks where it's there, it's sidechained to the vocals. I think that's where I have it going. Yeah, from the vocals on these guitars that we're listening to. We're listening to the guitars. So it's taking some of those out. It's very subtle stuff. I don't even know if it makes a difference with this because I've got so much bullshit on here, but... And maybe it even dulls it too much. There's different things you can do to take that stuff out. So anyways, the compressor is taking anything over a certain volume and bringing it down. You might be able to get some really cool fits in if instead of a compressor sidechain, we do what the video is talking about. And I don't know exactly how this works. I should probably just watch the friggin' video. But let me sidechain to... Now maybe in this instance I need a Pro Q3. You know what? Let's watch the video first and see if this is actually applying. Here's my thought. My thought was that you could take out you could lower the volume in similar parts of the guitar, but still have like parts that where your vocal, you could take out or lower the volume. So do an EQ cut in parts of your guitar where your vocals kind of sit to make more room for your vocals, but still have the stuff outside of your vocal range or your vocal track specifically being audible, and is listening to it and changing that dynamically and side chaining it. And that's kind of what I was thinking I was doing, or attempting to do with the Soothe sidechain, as well as with the compression. But compression is kind of like an overall volume thing most of the time. Anyways, I've got a lot of mixing to do on that
Where
track.
exactly that kick is hitting.
We're gonna.
So then we're just gonna hit this little external.
Maybe this is more
sidechain button.
informational.
We can pull this down and pull this down. Maybe make a
pull this
narrower
down.
Q too.
One of mine. This is my time. Yeah. I'm going back to back, making double mine. Double up, twice, share, double time. I put it
Yo,
on
what's
the
up?
line when I go for mine.
How's it going, Matt?
Ain't no stopping me, yes, go time.
Pull this down.
Hard in the paint when it's
Pull it down here.
Even a little low shelf to make up for it. So we just created a sidechain system, making space for our kick drum in our 808 using the built-in sidechain functionality in Pro Q3.
So maybe I think that's exactly what he did. Where instead of bringing down the whole bass line, it's only bringing down the frequencies where the kick is hitting. Or I think that's correct. Now, and that might make a certain more mix you want. Now, some people will use compression because it brings the volume down and you can pulse it. I have not experimented with this, for example, but we're going to do it. Fuck it, we'll do it live. This isn't necessarily EQ, but I'm just trying to combine stuff from our previous lessons. This is a comprehensive course, folks. Clearly. Unfortunately, there's no drums here, so I got to go back to the other project. Son of a bitch. I do not have a bass line in this at all. So what I'm going to really quick, I'm going to get a serum on there. Please don't make me log in or anything. Oh, thank God. Okay, I'm going to find a bass. A wobble. I just want like a straight ass bass. We got the sine wave. Whatever. There's got to be a way to take that loop off that automatically goes, because I always have to click that and then I can do this. So I've got this bass. I know we're in the key of F major, so I'm going to go to the scale and click F major, and I'm going to just do the scale. And we're just going to... Now, do I have to be recording? Am I recording? Maybe I'm too high up for a bass. What's happening? Oh. Now, is this a drawn out one? No, it's short. Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. I just want... honestly, maybe a synth? I'm trying to prove a point. Not really trying to prove anything. But... See, I don't even exactly know how to get like just a sine wave here. I thought going like analog and then there would just be sine, but apparently not. Square, acid. I just want a sine wave. I do have another class, not a class. Conflicting changes, excuse you. Learning like synthesizers themselves, but I have not done that yet, so I don't know exactly how to get the sine wave. Spectral. Nope, nothing. User vowel. I can now think of another project I was starting that might have the bass I'm thinking of. Okay, you know what? This sounds like fucking garbage. It's a straight ass square wave, but it does perfectly for what we're trying to do. I'm just. This sounds like garbage. That's okay. So all of these notes, because of the way I have them, are in. Sorry. I'm still getting used to writing in MIDI. I don't think I want to be in 1/16 right now, though. And I'm not as far over as I thought I was. Let me just do half. We'll walk down. We'll go random. We're just doing. Okay. So this. Am I in F minor? Or maybe it just doesn't fit. This isn't the point. I don't write bass lines yet. I'm learning. Okay. So then we throw a the whole point of this, and you can do the same thing with EQ, but for a compressor on there, just throw any compressor. We'll side chain it to the kicks chain. I want it to be a high ratio. I want it to be a very quick attack and a slow release. And what it should do, you know what? We're just gonna have one long line and we're gonna loop it so I can show what I actually haven't tried this. I just am pretty sure that this is how it works. Now, this is annoying as fuck. But we bring this threshold. You can kind of hear it. Am I just in a bad spot of the song? Good Lord. Wait, why is it not playing now? Is it because it doesn't have the actual start of the note? Please. Anyways, if you have a 4 on the floor, gosh, okay, doing this with a project that has weird ass kicks that I was fucking. How can I reach these keys? Pull that beard trimmer on the microphone, baby. God damn. I'm trying to think of a way I could just write a quick, not write, but I don't know. Oh my gosh, now it's back at I'm editing the wrong part. Chat, I'm falling apart. And we're just going to duplicate it because I guess now we're going back to where this is over here. looping this instead. You can hear that volume going down. That's the point of it. Jesus. So, and it's doing that every time the kick does that. But unfortunately, oh, I've got another idea. I can turn, this is the 4 on the floor, turn this kick off. Then, there we go. Duplicate that. You get a little bit of, that's one way you can do it. There's all kinds of LFOs you can do. We could do stuff like that. Okay, this is actually closer to what I wanted. Then we'll boost. Did it not continue? Okay, let's say this boof, boof, boof just goes the whole way. Let's just say, just for... Okay, I'm glad I at least just... So what I did is I just took that threshold down and then... So you can do that, and now that doesn't, depending on what your release is, it's fine if you have a slower song. Now, if I was... This is so fucking weird. Take this sub off. Please let me... Maybe it's one of these. Level, pan, phase, random. No. What's the shape? Show me where the shape is. We're almost done with the mixing for now. I'm working on a lesson. Anyways, that's something you can do for sidechaining to get like a pulse to it. But if you want to just fit your kick into where your bass or sub bass is, it'd probably be more your bass and not your sub bass, then you can sidechain the EQ, which is what this video is about.
And a little bonus that they sprinkled on top is just
We're doing it
the
live,
absolute
folks.
sauciest preset menu that you've ever seen,
And then we'll be heading on to Fallen Order here pretty shortly.
including the preset menus from the old version. So that's not really a secret trick right there, but it is something that when you're not sure what to do, will give you a really great starting point. So I highly recommend, even if
What's
you
up,
think you
Plague?
know what
How
you're
you doing?
doing, checking out the preset menu and seeing what happens. So there you have it.
Okay. So this is like, if the way this creator goes about it, again, I put the link in chat and it will be in the YouTube video description, both the channel and this specific video. This is like, the whole channel is a puppet doing this, and it is kind of a good way to learn and to remember specific things for that. So I like that channel for that. I also mentioned the EDM channel. I've got them all written down here. What do you mean conflicting changes? Oh, I think it's because I got it open over here or something. What if I close that? Anyways, I've got it written down. So we watched a short video from Waves, one from Sweetwater, pretty big companies. EDM tips, we've had one for both our compression and our gain staging video, and now this one. Because I enjoy EDM, even though I don't really produce house or trancey type music, it's still good to, I want to produce EDM stuff in general at times, and I want to, as well as the acoustic stuff, but it's still, he does a great job of going over different plugins and whatnot as well. So, so he's been in all three of our videos. Please, if you are watching on YouTube especially, please go give them a follow. They've got lots of great content. Thank you for dealing with me deciding to go into compression while we're talking. I'm trying to compare and contrast things. Going into compression while we're doing EQ type stuff. The gist is there. I don't know if we'll need to do a secondary EQ video. I will probably do a second one where I dive more into compression and maybe where I spend a bit more time on my own projects and actually trying to make them instead of just trying to find extremes where I'm not going to keep any of the changes. But for now, I think that's good for the videos. If anyone in Twitch wants any of the links that we watched, and you weren't here when I posted them at the beginning of each video, let me know. Otherwise, that's it for this video, and thanks for watching.